Hi everybody, I'm back and I'm here to read you today chapter 8 from The Wizard of Oz, The Deadly Poppy Fields. Ooh, that sounds really intense. But first, let's read our poem from Mr. Rogers. And today's poem is called It's Good to Talk. It's good to talk. It's good to say the things we feel. It's good to talk. We're much more real without the lot. It's good to talk. It's good to find someone we trust. It's good to talk. We know we must do more than balk. People weren't born to be silent. Our tongues make wonderful sounds. Just try a few phrases for practice. You'll see there are very few bounds. Let's see now. I like you. I'm angry. I'm happy. I'm sad. You see, that's not bad. It's good, not bad. It's good to talk. It's good to say the things we mean. It's good to talk of all we've seen and heard and felt for and wished for and knelt for. We need to talk more. It's good to talk. I know lots of you like to do a lot of talking, and that's good. And when we come back to school, you can talk to all of your friends. All right. Let's read The Wizard of Oz. Chapter 8, The Deadly Poppies. Our little party of travelers awakened next morning, refreshed and full of hope, and Dorothy breakfasted like the princess off peaches and plums from the trees beside the river. Behind them was the dark forest they had passed safely through, although they had suffered many discouragements. But before them was a lovely sunny country that seemed to beckon them on to the Emerald City. To be sure, the broad river now cut them off from this beautiful land, but the raft was nearly done, and after the Tin Woodman had cut a few more logs and fastened them together with wood pins, they were ready to start. Dorothy sat down in the middle of the raft and held Toto in her arms. When the Cowardly Lion stepped upon the raft, it tipped badly, for he was big and heavy. But the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman stood upon the other end to steady it, and they had long poles in their hands to push the raft through the water. They got along quite well at first, but when they reached the middle of the river, the swift current swept the raft down the stream, farther and farther away from the road of yellow brick, and the water grew so deep that the long poles would not touch the bottom. "This is bad," said the Tin Woodman, "for we cannot get to the land. We shall be carried into the country of the Wicked Witch of the West, and she will enchant us and make us her slaves." "And then I should get no brains," said the Scarecrow. "And I should get no courage," said the Cowardly Lion. "And I should get no heart," said the Tin Woodman. "And I should never get back to Kansas," said Dorothy. "We must certainly get to the Emerald City if we can," the Scarecrow continued, and he pushed so hard on his long pole that it stuck fast in the mud in the bottom of the river, and before he could pull it out again or let go, the raft was swept away, and the poor Scarecrow was left clinging to the pole in the middle of the river. And there he is. "Goodbye," he called after them. And they were very sorry to leave him. Indeed, the Tin Woodman began to cry, but fortunately remembered that he might rust, and so he dried his tears on Dorothy's apron. Of course, this was a bad thing for the Scarecrow. "I am now worse off than when I first met Dorothy," he thought. "Then I was stuck on a pole in a cornfield, where I can make believe scare the crows. At any rate, but surely there is no use for a Scarecrow stuck on a pole in the middle of a river. I'm afraid I shall never have any brains after all." Down the stream the raft floated, and the poor Scarecrow was left far behind. And then the Lion said, "Something must be done to save us. I think I can swim to the shore and pull the raft after me, if only you will hold fast to the tip of my tail." So he sprang into the water, and the Tin Woodman caught fast hold of his tail, when the Lion began to swim with all his might towards the shore. It was hard work, although he was so big, but by and by they were drawn out of the current, and then Dorothy took the Tin Woodman's long pole and helped push the raft to the land. They were all tired out when they reached the shore at last and stepped off upon the pretty green grass. And they also knew that the stream had carried them a long way past the road of yellow brick that led to the Emerald City. "What shall we do now?" asked the Tin Woodman as the lion lay down on the grass to let the sun dry him. "We must get back to the road in some way," said Dorothy. "The best plan will be to walk along the riverbank until we come to the road again," remarked the lion. So, when they were rested, Dorothy picked up her basket and they started along the grassy bank back to the road from which the river had carried them. It was a lovely country, with plenty of flowers and fruit trees and sunshine to cheer them, and had they not felt so sorry for the poor scarecrow, they could have been very happy. They walked along as fast as they could, Dorothy only stopping once to pick a beautiful flower, and after a time the Tin Woodman cried out, "Look!" And then they all looked at the river and saw the scarecrow perched upon his pole in the middle of the water, looking very lonely and sad. "What can we do to save him?" asked Dorothy. The lion and the woodman both shook their heads, for they did not know. So they sat down upon the bank and gazed wistfully at the scarecrow until a stork flew by, which, seeing them, stopped to rest at the water's edge. "Who are you, and where are you going?" asked the stork. "I am Dorothy," answered the girl, "and these are my friends, the Tin Woodman and the Cowardly Lion, and we are going to the Emerald City." "This isn't the road," said the stork, as she twisted her long neck and looked sharply at the queer party. "I know it," returned Dorothy, "but we have lost the scarecrow and are wondering on how we shall get him back again." "Where is he?" asked the stork. "Over there in the river," answered the girl. "If he wasn't so big and heavy, I could get him for you," remarked the stork. "He isn't a bit heavy," said Dorothy eagerly, "for he is just stuffed with straw, and if you will bring him back to us, we shall thank you ever and ever so much." "Well, I'll try," said the stork, "but if I find he's too heavy to carry, I shall have to drop him in the river again." And so the big bird flew into the air and over the water until she came to where the scarecrow was perched upon his pole. Then the stork, with her great claws, grabbed the scarecrow by the arm and carried him up into the air and back to the bank, where Dorothy and the lion and the Tin Woodman and Toto were sitting. When the scarecrow found himself among his friends again, he was so happy that he hugged them all, even the lion and Toto, and as they walked along he sang, "Toddly-dee-da-ra." Every step he was feeling so happy. "I was afraid I should have to stay in that river forever," he said, "but the kind stork saved me, and if I ever get any brains, I shall find that stork again and do some kindness in return." "That's all right," said the stork, who was flying along beside them. "I always like to help anyone who's in trouble, but I must go now, for my babies are waiting in the nest for me. I hope you will find the Emerald City, and that Oz will help you." "Thank you," replied Dorothy, and then the kind stork flew into the air and was soon out of sight. They walked along, listening to the singing of the bright-colored birds and looking at the lovely flowers, which now became so thick that the ground was carpeted with them. There were big yellow and white and blue and purple blossoms, besides great clusters of scarlet poppies, which were so brilliant in color they almost dazzled Dorothy's eyes. "Aren't they beautiful?" the girl asked as she breathed in the spicy scent of the flowers. "I suppose so," answered the scarecrow. "When I have brains, I'll probably like them better." "If only I had a heart, I should love them," added the Tin Woodman. "I always did like flowers," said the lion. "They seem so helpless and frail, but there are none in the forest so bright as these." They now came upon more and more of the big scarlet poppies, and fewer of the other flowers, and soon they found themselves in the midst of a great meadow of poppies. Now, it is well known that when there are many of these flowers together, their odor is so powerful that anyone who breathes it falls asleep, and if the sleeper is not carried away from the scene of the flowers, he sleeps on and on forever. But Dorothy did not know this, nor could she get away from the bright red flowers that were everywhere about. So presently her eyes grew heavy, and she felt she must sit down to rest and to sleep. But the Tin Woodman would not let her do this. "We must hurry and get back to the road of yellow brick before dark," he said, and the Scarecrow agreed with him. So they kept walking until Dorothy could stand no longer. Her eyes closed in spite of herself, and she forgot where she was, and she fell asleep among the poppies. "What shall we do?" asked the Tin Woodman. "If we leave her here, she'll die," said the Lion. "The smell of the flowers is getting us all. I myself can scarcely keep my eyes open, and the dog is asleep already." It was true. Toto had fallen down beside his little mistress, but the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, not being made of flesh, were not troubled by the scent of the flowers. "Run fast," said the Scarecrow to the Lion, "and get out of this deadly flower bed as soon as you can. We will bring the little girl with us, but if you should fall asleep, you're too big to be carried." So the Lion aroused himself and bounded forward as fast as he could go, and in a moment he was out of sight. "Let's make a chair with our hands and carry her," said the Scarecrow. So they picked up Toto and put the dog in Dorothy's lap, and then they made a chair with their hands for the seat and their arms for the arms, and carried the sleeping girl between them through the flowers. There she is. On and on they walked, and it seemed that the great carpet of deadly flowers that surrounded them would never end. They followed the bend of the river, and at last came upon their friend the Lion, lying fast asleep among the poppies. The flowers had been too strong for the huge beast, and he had given up at last, and fallen only a short distance from the end of the poppy bed, where the sweet grass spread in beautiful green fields before them. "We can do nothing for him," said the Tin Woodman sadly, "for he is much too heavy to lift. We must leave him here to sleep forever, and perhaps he will dream that he has found courage at last." "I am sorry," said the Scarecrow, "but the Lion was a very good comrade for one so cowardly. But let us go on." They carried the sleeping girl to a pretty spot beside the river, far enough from the poppy field to prevent her breathing any more of the poison of the flowers, and here they laid her gently on the soft grass and waited for the fresh breeze to awaken her. And that is the end of that chapter. The next chapter is called The Queen of the Field Mice, and it is chapter 9. And so we will find out what happens with all of our friends tomorrow. I don't want you to worry about the lion. All right, I will talk to you later. Bye.